Hello, hello, it's me, Jenny Leem, here with the next raw contact discussion. We're on session 27, which means this is video number 28. I feel like when we should get to 30, we should celebrate. So this is a lot. This is a lot of videos and a lot of recordings and a lot of hours. So if you've been watching them, I appreciate you. Let's get started. Okay. So 27. So we made it to February 21st, 1981. All right. Don is asking two questions. Don is asking for Jim. Jim felt the obligation to ask two questions that were asked of him by Paul Shockley. So it took me a while to figure out who that was, because there's a Paul R. Shockley or something, and he's like looks like a 30 or 40-year-old professor at some university, teaches religious studies. And I'm like, that cannot be the person they're talking about, because that person was probably not born in he wasn't alive in 1981. So I finally found him, and he was a channeler since 1963 of high frequency messages. And it was, I couldn't really find a lot more information about him that was helpful to identify who he is. So just know he was before, I don't know when the term medium started being used, but channeler was used more. And I don't know, there's not really a distinction between the two. I guess a medium is more targeted towards people's loved ones that are on the other side. A channeler can be anybody, I guess might be the distinction. A channeler can channel anybody, so, aliens or whatever, but really it's all the same thing. There's really no distinction between the two words. But channeler sometimes refers to other entities than just someone's loved one on the other side. Okay, so anyway, here's one of the first questions that Jim has from Paul. Paul Shockley is presently channeling the same source which Edgar Cayce channeled. Now, I've read a lot of stuff about Edgar Cayce, and I don't remember him specifically channeling a specific entity, but he must have, because that's what they're talking about. And Paul has received information that he took part in the design and construction of the Egyptian pyramids. Can you tell us what his role was? And Ra actually tells them the stuff. I was expecting Ra to say, well, I can't tell you that because I would go against the free will of, whatever. But no. This, in your time-space continuum, 2 periods and 2 lifetimes. The first was a physical nature, working with the Confederation entities that you know of as Atlantis. This was 13,000 years ago. This memory being integrated into the unconscious of the mind-body-spirit complex of the entity due to its extreme desire to remember the service of healing and polarization possible by the mechanisms of the crystal uncharged healer. So the first incarnation of Paul Shockley working with pyramids took place in Atlantis 13,000 years ago. Ra actually just comes out and says it. And the reason why he's remembering it is because in this current lifetime that he had, I'm sure he's deceased now, but in this lifetime that he had in 1981, he had an extreme desire to remember the service of healing and how the crystals were used. So here comes another one. The second experience being approximately 1,000 years later, so around 12,000 years ago, during which this entity prepared in some part the consciousness of the people of Egypt, and that were able to offer the calling that enabled those of our social memory complex to walk among your peoples. During this lifetime, this entity was a priest and teaching nature, and succeeded in remembering in semi-distorted form the learned teachings of the Atlantean pyramidal experiences. Thus, the entity became a builder of the archetypal thought of the law of one, with distortion toward healing, which aided our people in bringing this through into a physical manifestation of what you would later call a period in your time measurement. So, very interesting that this man lived during Atlantis, knew about the pyramids and the crystals and the healing of Atlantis, and then 1,000 years later, he remembers parts of that life then, and he starts getting the conscious minds of people of Egypt ready for this through being a priest, a healer, and a builder. How fascinating. It's really cool that, like, I think a lot of us that are into the past life stuff feel like we've had a lot of lives that are similar over time. Like, I know that I've had a lot of lives that were specifically targeted towards spiritual work. Here I am again, doing it again, and there's Paul Shockley, working with pyramids and healing and helping people understand stuff 2 different times, at least. That's the only ones they ask about, because he specifically wanted to know about pyramid information. So, wow. The second question is, Paul also received information that mentions that there are other beings aiding in the construction of the pyramids that were not fully materialized. They were materialized from the waist up to their heads, but were not materialized from the waist down to their feet. Did these entities exist in the construction of the pyramids? That sounds kind of creepy. It's like floating upper torsos with no legs. Okay, so consider, if you will, the intelligent infinity present in the absorption of livingness and beingness as it becomes codified into the intelligent energy due to the thought impressions of those assisting the living stone in the new shape of beingness. Okay, sure, that's a lot of words. The release and use of intelligent infinity for a brief period begins to absorb all the consecutive or interlocking dimensions, thus offering brief glimpses of those projecting to the material their thought. These beings thus beginning to materialize, but not remaining visible. These beings were the thought form manifestation of our social memory complex as we offer contact from our intelligent infinity to the intelligent infinity of the stone. So remember, they're not completely physical bodies that they had as they're running around Egypt making stuff. They're thought form bodies, which give the illusion of being physical bodies that are completely solid. But Ra is saying that even though they had the illusion of being completely solid, the use of the intelligent energy having to communicate with the intelligent energy of the stones causes like a distortion in the dimensions, which makes them slightly invisible, their bodies slightly invisible while they're working with them. So Paul Shockley wasn't getting information about different entities. It was the raw entities that were making the stuff and looked like parts of them weren't there for a while. It just kind of makes me think, and this is, I have a feeling that Ra would say that's incorrect, but it just makes me feel like there's kind of like it took so much concentration and energy and thought to like do this specific thing that it glitched him out almost, which I guess in some ways that's what it was, because he says it's an absorption of all the consecutive or interlocking dimensions. So it's like they glitched out. Okay, next. The statement I will begin to make, which I have written, it is, most entities in this density focus their minds on some transient condition or activity with little regard to its value as a tool or an aid, and to their growth and understanding of the true or undistorted essence of the creation of which they are an integral part. I feel like I need to read that part again, because I've been having a lot of realizations personally this week about stuff, and like how everything we do, even the little things, are part of the big thing. So let's read this again. Most entities in this density focus their minds on some transient condition or activity with little regard to its value as a tool or an aid to their growth or an understanding of the true or undistorted essence of the creation of which they are an integral part. So remember, this is Don saying this. It's like things that Don has felt like he's starting to understand, and he wants to get clarification from Ra if it's right or not. We will attempt by starting at the beginning of creation to establish an overview of ourselves in the creation, thereby arriving at a more informed point of inspection of what we consider to be reality. I would like to start with definitions of words that we have been using that possibly would have not and possibly cannot totally understand, but since the first words that we use are intelligent infinity, I would like for you to define each of these words and give the definition of their combination. So, Don's very insightful here, and it's weird because this particular stuff he's talking about in this little sentence is what I've been experiencing this week. So if you happened to watch the little short, it's like 4-minute video, it's the Medium vlog about spirit signs from the past self. I won't go into all of it again. So if you've seen it, you'll know what I'm talking about. And if you haven't seen it, you can go watch it after this so you'll know what I'm talking about. There's specific things that happened, that were made, choices that were made, things that came into being throughout my life that all at one time showed up to be a sign that what I'm doing in the present is leading me to where I want to be in the future. But all of those things weren't necessarily big things. They were parts of bigger things, but they were not big transitionary things. And it's really made me start to think about how all the stuff that we do, all the things that we make, all the decisions that we make, all the choices that we choose are part of our tools, like Don's saying. They're tools and aids in the growth in our understanding and our of this, the spiritual, our moving up in densities, everything. It's not just the big parts. It's also all the little parts. Because it's all interlocked, it's all interconnected. And without the little things, there wouldn't be the big things. But we only kind of see the big things. And this week I was made aware that the little things are also just as important and lead us to the places that we need to be. So, very good, Don, very good. Anyway, he wants to know what the definition that Ra has for intelligent and infinity and intelligent infinity together. But Ra's like, please restate your query. Would you define the word intelligent and the concept of intelligent infinity? We shall address the entire spectrum of this question before defining as requested. Your language using vibratory sound complexes, which just means words. Ra refuses to use the word words, wants to make it complicated. Your words can be at best an approximation of that which is closer to an understanding, if you will, of the nature of conscious thought. Basically, our words are shit, and there's no way that our words can possibly define everything that there is to know about the universe and spirit, etc., etc., which I completely agree with. Perceptions are not the same as words, and the attempt to define will therefore be frustrating one for you, although we are happy to aid you within the limits of your words. So basically, your words are crap, your perception of your words are crap, but so you're going to get real frustrated because everything we say isn't going to make any damn sense. And then, but you know, we can happily aid you with your shitty words. Okay. To define intelligent part from infinity is difficult. For these two vibratory complexes, these two words equal one concept. So Ross saying that, and you can't separate the intelligent and the infinity. They're the same. It's one concept. It's like attempting to divide faith into two parts. So then Don says, it's not necessary to divide it. Can you just tell us what is your definition of intelligent infinity? This is exponentially simpler and less confusing. Thanks, Ra. Poor Don has to go around and around. Okay. There is unity. This unity is all that there is. This unity has a potential and a kinetic. The potential is intelligent infinity. Tapping this potential will yield work. This work has been called by us intelligent energy. So the potential for stuff is the intelligent infinity. It just exists. It's the part of the whole. But the work, the stuff that happens because of the intelligent infinity, is the intelligent energy. The work, the nature of this work is dependent upon the particular distortion of the free will, which in turn is the nature of a particular intelligent energy or kinetic focus of the potential of unity, or that which is all. So each soul, each entity, because they have free will, the focus of their actions, the focus of their intelligent energy can be completely different from each other. I'd like to expand a little on the concept of work. In Newtonian physics, the concept of work is what we call a force which moves through space. It's the product of the force and distance as we measure it. I'm assuming that the work of which you speak is a much broader term, including possibly work in consciousness. Am I correct? As we use this term, it is universal in application. Intelligent infinity has a rhythm, or a flow, as of a giant heartbeat beginning with the central sun. I love this analogy of a giant heartbeat. As you would think or conceive of it, the presence of the flow inevitable as a tide of beingness without polarity, without finity. The vast and silent, all beating outward, focusing outward and inward until the focuses are complete. The intelligence or consciousness of foci have reached a state where their, shall we say, spiritual nature, or Mass calls them inward, until all is coalesced. This is the rhythm of reality as you spoke. That's a lot of words, so let's define it in a way that we can understand it. So intelligent infinity has a rhythm, has a flow, like a giant heartbeat, from the center of all that is created, and it continues to go outward, expanding. Think of the Big Bang, the beginning of what we think of as the beginning of the universe. It's a mass of whatever, we don't even know what. It explodes and it expands. It's still expanding and infinitely expanding. Okay, everybody's got that part. Everything from the center of creation is going outward. And in the idea of the intelligent infinity, it's not just physical matter moving outward. It's the consciousness, awareness, co-creators moving outward to create more stuff. All right. But then, at some point, the beings that are part of the whole expansion start to look inward, 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 to find the spiritual nature of their existence. And because they're looking inward, 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 it's making them go back to the source, because they want to know where they came from. They want to unravel the mysteries. And because they're starting to look inward, 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 it all ends up going back through the expanse to the beginning. Everybody got it? It's a very confusing concept, but it all makes sense. The beginning expands, the stuff gets created, the beings are there, they don't know why they're there, they look inward so that they can go back and find the origin. Pretty amazing. Now I think I have extracted an important point from this, in that in intelligent infinity we have work without polarity, or a potential difference that does not have to exist. Is this correct? There's no difference, potential or kinetic, in unity. The basic rhythms of intelligent infinity are totally without distortion or any kind. The rhythms are clothed in mystery, for they are being itself. From this undistorted unity, however, appears a potential in relation to intelligent energy. So the rhythm of the universe and the creation of everything, there's no polarity, it's all unified. In this way, you may observe the term to be somewhat two-sided. One use of the term, that being as the undistorted unity without any kinetic or potential side, and the other application of this term, which we use undifferentiatedly, for lack of another term, in the sense of the vast potential tapped into by foci or focuses of intelligent energy. And then they have a little footnote about how they added intelligent in there. Okay. So basically this paragraph is trying to clarify some things, because Ross sees that we might get confused. So intelligent infinity is talking about unity without distortion, but there's the vast potential to be tapped into different focuses of intelligent energy, which does cause distortions. Then Don says, I understand that the first distortion of the intelligent infinity is the distortion of free will. Can you give a definition of this distortion? In this distortion of the law of one, it is recognized that the creator will know itself. Okay. Then am I correct then in assuming that the creator will know itself? The creator then grants for this knowing the concept of freedom, total freedom of choice in the ways of knowing. Am I correct? Quite correct. So there's an infinite number of ways that the creator can know itself through this law of free will. Okay. Are all other distortions, which are the total experience of the creation, spring from this, correct? Correct and incorrect. In your illusion, all experience springs from the law of free will, or the way of confusion. I love that that's the other way of saying law of free will, it's confusion. In another sense, which we are learning the experiences, are this distortion. So, what? Don asks, do all other distortions spring from the law of free will? In our illusion, all experiences spring from the law of free will. But we are learning, and the experiences are this distortion. Okay. That's confusing. I'm not sure if I totally get it. All right. The second distortion is love, correct? Correct. I would like for you to define love in the sense of the second distortion. This must be defined against the background of intelligent infinity or unity or the one creator with the primal distortion of free will. The term love then may be seen as the focus, the choice of attack, the type of energy of an extremely high order which causes intelligent energy to be formed for the potential of intelligent infinity in just such and such a way. This then must be seen to be an object rather than an activity by some of your people, and the principle of this extremely strong energy focus being worshipped as the creator instead of oneness, unity or oneness, from which all love emanates. Whew. Okay. Don says, is there a manifestation of love that you call vibration? So Ra's trying to explain that love is not an action, but an object. And that's really what's being worshipped as the creator. And I don't know what implications really that all that has, but let's see what else happens here. So then Dawn says, is there a vibration to love? Love being the great activator and primal co-creator of various creations using intelligent infinity, the vibration love being that density in which those who have learned to do an activity called loving without significant distortion then seek in the ways of light and wisdom. Okay, so love is an object. Love is a thing, but you can do the activity of loving. And without much distortion, the people that reach the loving activity, which remember, the fourth dimension is the dimension of love, start to seek the ways of light and wisdom, which is the fifth density. Thus, in vibratory sense, love comes into light. The sense of the activity of unity in its free will, love uses light and has the power to direct light in its distortions. Thus, vibratory complexes recapitulate in reverse the creation in its unity, thus showing the rhythm or flow of the great heartbeat, if you will use this analogy. Huh? This is some very dense stuff to get through. So love has to work towards light. Love has to work towards wisdom. Fourth density works towards fifth density. But then sixth density is when they come together. So fourth density is love working towards wisdom. Fifth density is wisdom working towards the combination of the two. And I feel like that's what Ra's talking about here. Love comes into light. Love uses the light to direct and has the power to direct the light in its distortions. And then it's going in reverse back to the creator. Because something happens at seventh density, and then eighth density is going back to the source. Okay. I will make a statement that I have extracted from the physics of Dewey Larson. Now remember, Dewey Larson was like a scientific guy who had figured out some stuff about how the physics of our universe really work, and Ross said that some of his stuff was accurate. Larson says that all is motion, which we can take as vibration. And that vibration, which is pure vibration, is not physical in any way, or in any form, or in any density. Is the first product of that vibration is what you call the photon, or the particle of light. I'm trying to make an analogy between the physical solution and the concept of love and light. Is this close to the concept of love creating light or not? Correct. Okay. So the pure vibration creates the photon, which is literally light. So is this the physical solution of the concept of love and light? Ross says correct. All right. We have the infinite vibration of love, which can occur at varying frequencies. I assume that it begins at one basic frequency. Is this correct? Each love, as you term the prime movers, comes from one frequency. The frequency is unity. We would perhaps like to liken it rather to a strength than a frequency. This strength being infinite and the finite qualities being chosen by the particular nature of the primal movement. So each love comes from one frequency, which is unity, but it's infinite unity. Then this vibration, which we would call pure motion, is pure love. There is nothing that has yet condensed to form any type of density or illusion. This love then creates, by this process of vibration, a photon, which is the basic particle of light. This photon then by added vibrations and rotation, further condenses into particles of the densities, the various densities that we experience. Is this correct? Ross says it's correct. So the vibrations of love create a photon, which creates light, and then light creates more vibrations and rotations, condenses, and creates more densities. Good job, Dawn. Now, then light, which forms the densities, has what we call color, and this color is divided into 7 categories. What is the reason or the explanation for these categories of color? The nature of the vibratory patterns of your universe is dependent upon the configurations placed upon the original material or light by the focus of love, using its intelligent energy to create a certain pattern of illusions or densities in order to satisfy its own intelligent estimate of a method of knowing itself. Thus the colors, as you call them, are as straight and narrow or necessary as is possible to express given the will of love. This session has been extraordinarily difficult. So what the hell did he just say? What the hell did Ra just say? Ra said, patterns of your universe are dependent upon the configurations of the original material or light in the focus of love. Intelligent energy creates certain patterns to satisfy its own knowing of itself. So colors are a necessity, are as straight or narrow or necessary as is possible to express given the will of love. So all of this stuff about color right now is really, really confusing. But in the next session, Dawn asks more about the color because they had to finish up this session because Carla's energy was getting low. So we'll go back to the color on the next session and get a little bit more information about it because that was super, super confusing. Let's recap what we learned in this session. What did we even learn in this session? We found out some information about a channeler named Paul Shockley and how he could remember stuff from his past lives due to his intense interest in knowing and remembering his own services of healing. That was really cool. And then Don wanted to know about, he wanted to go back through the creation of everything by having Ra define certain terms. So we learned about intelligent infinity in a much deeper scale, even though it was really confusing. We learned more about what the work is that we are doing as parts of the free will distortion. And then Don got really into understanding the light and love aspect of creation. And he was doing a really good job. Don, you're doing such a good job figuring it out. And then we just started barely to begin talking about color, but I think we'll just really talk more about that in the next session because this one they didn't get into it yet. So deep, confusing information in this session, but nonetheless, cool, interesting, important stuff. So if you liked this video, don't forget to give it a like and subscribe if you haven't already. Join in on the discussion. What do you think about all this stuff? What are your thoughts, theories, concerns, questions, comments, etc., etc.? There's a lot more videos before this one, and there's a lot more after it. So if this is the first time that you've joined us on this raw contact information, there's a lot more. There's a lot more. And it all goes together. So thanks for watching, and I'll be back with another one as soon as possible. Bye!